Hello, this is Jack, and today we're going to check out this Sanlida Archery bow. This one comes from Amazon, and it's a one-piece recurve. And I think it's a good representation of bows transitioning from the late 20th century to the 21st century. And let's kind of get into the history of these bows that entered the modern era of sport bow hunting. So you see, prior to the invention of fiberglass, these kind of bows were made of horn, sinew, or composites, especially the recurve, sometimes bamboo with wood laminates, sometimes just bamboo. Right after the 1940s, up to the transition of 1950s, you get people experimenting with fiberglass, but Fred Bear was not the inventor of fiberglass bows. Prior to him, there were physicists and scientists experimenting. For example, Miller from the UK, he was experimenting with bows using these fiberglass materials. But Fred Bear really was the grandfather of modern archery here in North America. And the reason is he turned these fiberglass bows into a commercially viable product. And that's what matters. So a lot of people were experimenting with these kind of bows, especially with modern materials, and it kind of set the foundation of modern bow hunting. But now we get into the story where I think this bow starts taking interest. This is a Chinese-made bow that kind of replicates the success of the late 20th century, where you have all these famous North American bow-making companies. You see, back then, you had to save a decent amount of money to buy this for the middle class. Adjusted for inflation, you're looking at about $600 for a bow like this. So that's not something everyone can just buy off the shelf easily. They had to save, at least a few months if they want to buy this. But right at the end of the late 20th century to the 2000s, China started entering the market for specifically bows. Prior to this, you had a little bit more, but online shopping was starting to take off. And Chinese markets, they started getting into companies like eBay, Amazon, and that's when I think commercially, these bows really started taking off. Cheaper doesn't mean better. Often those break down much easier. The quality wasn't good. But that wasn't a big deal when your point is to get into archery. And, if all you had was $100 and you want to, get into archery, you could buy a made in China product. And that's how these bows really took off, is that they're in this market where they're not, in the same price range as made in the US quality products from known reputation, from known manufacturers. But at the same time, they're a great gateway for people to get into bow hunting, get into archery. And I don't expect a lot of people taking these for bow hunting, but it gains interest for them to start the hobby. And even me, the first bow I had was a made in China takedown bow that was under $100. And a lot of people, I think, started because of this, because of these Chinese manufacturers. And whether you hate it or not, they are kind of the gateway that started a lot of these people into modern archery. And so that's one of the bows we're going to review today, which comes from Sanlida Archery. This is a one-piece takedown, and I think the closest thing, it represents kind of the Fred Bear era 1960s, a bow back then costing, adjusted for inflation, $600. Now you can buy it for $100. And quality wise, I'd say this one isn't that bad. We're gonna do some shooting and testing and check it out, but let's see. So right off the bag, you have the pamphlet, the one piece. This one is the Royal X8 series, 60 inches long. It's for a right-handed shooter, but of course the left-handed shooter can still shoot this with thumb draw or Slavic draw, or they can just switch hands. And I shoot ambidextrous, so it doesn't matter too much to me. And it also gives you a bag for all the basic accessories like gloves, stringer, fur for your bow silencer. And this one, they actually gave me a few arrows as well to shoot with, which is pretty nice. But let's string this thing and check it out. So we have the one-piece recurve strung, the Royal X8. This one's 35 pounds, 60 inches long. Now, as a modern American bow, it's designed to be shot, with your quiver and your right-handed shooter, and you probably have a quiver in your back. And this is probably how it's designed to shoot. So we're gonna do it like that for now. Not bad. These also predate the takedown modern recurves. This is already very similar to the Olympic recurves, but it doesn't have the takedown feature yet with the screws. That is invented a little bit later. Of course, takedown bows is earlier with historical bows. I don't think the arrows are very spine for it, it's too stiff. Wow, you can feel the thump. Yeah, it's definitely less accurate than bare bow draw. I don't know, I don't like thumb draw with these kind of bows. Honestly, for post-apocalyptic, I'd probably do this because it's a slightly faster reload. So what do I think about this bow? Need more time for the durability, but overall, my first impressions are good job. I think it represents pretty well of the 1960s, 1970s fiberglass recurves. But of course, being a modern bow and having these 2 decades of experience in China, learning how to make these, I think it's quite reliable, and I do trust it for target shooting, but I would not bring this for bow hunting because I'd be spending so much money bow hunting. I'd probably take a much more expensive bow that's a lot more reliable. But for target practice, this is great. I'm gonna shoot it a lot more, and then I'll tell you guys, you know, in a short or something of how I think about the durability. But so far, no complaints so far. I like it. For $120, good job. The shelf really doesn't make it shoot fast, but it still works. Just I don't like the shelf for speed shooting.